Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I would like to discuss the comments from controversial Tory Cabinet Minister, former Chief Whip Mark Spencer, who said that a load of Tory MPs who were elected first in 2017 and 2019 were basically a load of rubbish. I'd like to comment on the political wisdom or otherwise of saying this, but also to what extent is it true that you do not get unsuitable parliamentary candidates under certain conditions. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So Mark Spencer, the former Chief Whip, who was used as a willing scapegoat over the Owen Paterson scandal in return for being moved from one senior position to another, has said that candidates selected at snap elections are of poor quality because it's all done in a rush. Now, a couple of things, really, or I suppose a few things to say about that. First of all, the political folly. Spencer has basically said that about half of his own parliamentary party are rubbish. Not necessarily the most diplomatic move when the parliamentary party is currently a very loosely bound group of different factions, none of whom are all that happy with Boris Johnson. Johnson remains in post because none of them are really sure that there is a better candidate. And even if they do think that someone else would be a better candidate, they can't be sure that their preferred alternative would win a leadership contest. And calling them poor quality was bad enough. But Spencer also said that his party would have a higher calibre of candidate at the next election. Now that strongly implies that the plan would be to deselect a significant number of their current MPs. That doesn't seem sensible. Right now, many Tory MPs are worried that they may lose their seats at the next election. We know that that's why Boris Johnson's under pressure. They don't care about his law breaking. They don't care about the fact he's not doing anything useful in government. Some of them care a little bit, but they'll let it slide as long as they win their seats at the next election. What's worrying them is the fact that they think they may not. If they start to think that they're definitely going to lose their seat because regardless of how the election goes, they're going to be deselected anyway, what is their incentive to toe the party line? Also, what happens when you take a look at the Tory MPs who have done the most damage to their party's chances? You know, the ones who are causing problems for the Conservatives. Owen Paterson. That really kicked off the loss of trust. But he was first elected in 1997. After 5 years. So we can't argue that that was a rush decision. Neil Tractor Porn Parish was first elected in 2010. Again, after 5 years. So since the previous election. So again, you can't argue that that was rushed. David Warburton, the Tory MP who's trying to claim that his photo with lines of cocaine was actually dandruff. He was first elected in 2015. Again, 5-year gap. Then Boris Johnson himself. I think it's fair to say he's done more than any other Tory MP to sink his party's popularity. He was first elected in 2001 after 4 years. So yeah, the odd 2017 or 2019 cohort member has absolutely besmirched themselves as well. Imran Ahmed Khan for the Tories, Claudia Webb for Labour. But if you were to create a list of MPs for any party or all parties that have dropped the ball badly and reflected poorly upon their party with their behaviour, you don't actually see a pattern of MPs being elected during very early elections. You know, that's not to say you don't get poor quality candidates. Of course you do. And what's more, it's a deliberate built-in feature of the party model. But it's got nothing to do with whether the election took place 4 or 5 years after the previous one or 2 years. Major political parties depend upon poor quality candidates. They need them. Because here's the thing. You do not have to wait for the next election to start thinking about your candidates. The idea that if you have a sudden general election or you're in a rush to get your candidates sorted, if you are, then it's because you haven't been thinking about it beforehand. You should be thinking about it as soon as one election's over. You know, by all means, wait until it's imminent before you make your final decision, of course. But the process can be ongoing. If the party has any sort of strategic mindset, the process goes like this. First, consider how likely you are to win the seat. If you've got no chance at all, don't matter. Whoever fancies wearing out their shoe leather on a lost cause will do. Maybe give someone some experience to get them ready for the future, or get a local councillor to do it. If the seat is winnable, but it'll be tough, that's when you need a strong candidate. You need someone who can demonstrate that they are in tune with the needs of the local communities, but also someone who'll be very good at debating and laying out key policies in an easy to understand way. You don't muck about with Buggings' turn for a marginal seat. You select the best. Now, if the seat is very safe, then you can afford a useful idiot. In fact, you'd ideally want an idiot. Someone who will be elected on the strength of the colour of their rosette, not on the force of their arguments, because that's neither here nor there. The seat's going to be won anyway. You know, they are a shoo-in whose election will be down to the National Party machine. The party needs some of those because to get anything through Parliament, they need their MPs to vote the way the whips tell them. If every single MP on the government benches was an intelligent, critically thinking individual, it would be a nightmare. It'd be like herding cats, and it would look chaotic to the public as the government struggles to get legislation passed quickly with a load of people going, but hang on a minute, what about that? Oh, that's not suitable, or I'm not sure about that. So when there are poor quality MPs, that's the reason. Major political parties have no problem getting good quality candidates if they want them. No problem. In any given constituency, you can have someone local who'd be really good, intelligent, sharp, incisive. Absolutely, if you wanted them. They don't always want them. They often don't want them. Safe seats in particular, you know, like I say, value loyalty over skill. In fact, the party machine is basically a reflection of Boris Johnson's cabinet, isn't it? He promoted based purely on blind obedience to his cause. There are a small number of genuinely competent cabinet ministers right now, like Michael Gove, Ben Wallace, but only because Johnson doesn't feel threatened by them. Most of them are idiots that wouldn't want to challenge him or be able to if they did. That is what a political party is like, only it is normal practice to funnel your relatively small number of genuinely good ones into those front bench positions to reflect better on the overall party and to adopt better strategies. Because a party also needs its superstars. It needs its genuinely good ones in order to get things done, in order to drive the strategy, drive in government the legislative agenda. But there's a balance. You want just enough clever and hard-working MPs to get the job done, with a few extra in case one drops a bollock and has to resign or be sacked, and as many of the rest just need to nod along and do as they're told in return for being able to feel important, get a nice salary, subsidised food, good pension, maybe a nice seat in the House of Lords to fall asleep in when they retire. So although you will sometimes get candidates, and therefore MPs, who will disgrace themselves in a way that no vetting process could reasonably have foreseen, there's no correlation between those who do and whether they were elected during a snap election or after a 4 or 5 year parliament. Nor is there any serious effort to get the best candidates in most cases anyway. Like what's happening here is Mark Spencer, who's a loyal Johnson supporter, is not happy that Tory MPs are questioning the almighty leader. What he actually wants is not higher quality candidates, but more compliant ones. That, by definition, means lower calibre candidates. Also, how do you judge the quality of a candidate anyway? For example, switching parties. I've been keeping a little eye on the prospective Labour candidates for the upcoming Wakefield by-election. I won't decide on those, but I've been looking at them anyway. The candidate will effectively be selected by the local party. So the qualifications for those who select the candidate will be lives in Wakefield and pays a few pounds a month to be a Labour member. That's it. So even the selection process is not set up to get a strong candidate. And this is the case for other parties as well. The national leadership can airdrop a candidate in if they really want, and sometimes do, of course, because again, you need to get your superstars in. But a lot of the time, it's down to the local party. And although I am very much in favour of that, I'm very much in favour of the local members selecting, there are two main weaknesses with the system. First, they will decide the main criteria for selection, which may be based on a poor analysis of what the voters want. For example, the big push with the Labour Wakefield candidate is being local. Now, granted, great, I'd be in favour of that in this particular case. But I do note there's some criticism of one of the candidates. Is that because she's not local? No, she's local. But do you know what? She was born half an hour's drive away from Wakefield. Oh, it's not local then, is she? She was born down the road there. Right. Obviously a ridiculous objection. And so without me being directly involved in the Wakefield CLP and knowing the local politics there, I'm going to guess it's just an excuse by a particular faction there because they want actually someone else. But this particular candidate is a really strong one and they want to try and come up with some spurious reason why she should not be selected. The second weakness is that not everyone who is voting will base their decision on which candidate is most likely to win. They'll base it on which candidate they think is most likely to be their willing stooge in Parliament. Now, this is fine for a safe seat, as I've said before, but it is not great for the general public. But it works for the party machine, so okay, you know. But Wakefield is not a safe seat. In fact, since the last election, it's a Tory seat, so they need to flip it. But even before it did flip, it would been a tricky one for Labour to win. Like, you might look at it, oh, Labour have won it in like X number of years. Yeah, but it wasn't easy. It was a marginal throughout, you know, well, ever since 2005, definitely. Classic case of a seat where you cannot take it for granted and you need a candidate who's strong at campaigning. But local party members, and this isn't me picking on Wakefield members, they may be very astute or they may have some people amongst them who point things out. But generally speaking, local party members will not always think strategically like this. And there are not always voices in the local party pointing it out to others. So they may vote for the candidate whom they see representing their potentially narrow interests in Parliament best, and then pick one who can't actually win the election. You know, if parties in general wanted consistently better candidates, they'd do more to train their active members in considering the factors that are important in selection. Because, like I said, I am very much in favour of the local members selecting. But what are you doing to help them make sure they can make the right decision? What training is there? Like if you were in a workplace, I have been, for example, on interview panels as a teacher, you know, and you're trained in how to conduct an interview and how to base your decisions. So, for example, will the Wakefield CLP have a meeting, not to discuss the candidates, but to discuss the factors to look out for in a good candidate and what wins? You know, look, do they get a talk from a political strategist before they even consider the candidate? Will that political strategist explain to them, so what really are the local issues? Never mind what you think by talking to your mates in the hairdressers. You know, what does polling say are the main issues? I bet they don't. And I bet they don't in the equivalent Conservative Party selection process either. So senior members of any party that are not happy with the MPs they end up with should consider that they get the MP that their system favours. If they want a different result, they need a different system. In the case of the Tories, I could point out that getting rid of their more intelligent candidates because they wouldn't back a hard Brexit was not exactly going to produce a great parliamentary party. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. Maybe even click on the join button if you'd be interested in memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.